is Carly. Are we good, Josephine?
Yes.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I welcome you all to the Community Board 10 Parks Committee meeting for today, January the 17th. Thank you to all those in attendance. We have two presentations today. Before we go on, I want to wish everyone a Happy New Year because I guess we haven't met since the new year. So Happy New Year to everyone. I hope that it's a healthy and happy and prosperous one for everyone. So tonight's meeting is a presentation from two organizations. One is for the Partnership for Parks, and the other, which will follow, is from the Narrows Botanical Gardens Conservancy. And so I welcome our representatives from the Parks Department, Chris Clay, who's our district manager, and the Partnership for Parks representatives. We have with us Curtis Sherrod and Carly Chamblay. And I'm sorry if I pronounced your names incorrectly. But without further ado, I'm going to turn the meeting over to, I guess, to Curtis, and we are anxious to hear your presentation.
Well, with that being said, I'm happy to be here with you guys. I hope you guys are having a great year thus far. I hope your MLK Day was smooth. And so some of you may be familiar or acquainted with our organization, and that's cool. Some of you may not. So what I'll do is I'll give you a cursory overview of who we are, Partnership for Parks. And basically, this is what we are. Let's say you have a passion for the wonderful parks that New York provides, and you want to do something. It could be something like a cleanup or a daffodil planting, or you may get creative. You may want to do something like a puppet show in the park, or something youth related, or a senior citizens yoga exercise event where we combine other elements. Basically, think of the park as your canvas, right? And you guys are the paint. And we can just sit down and think of what kind of activity that you would like to do in the park to enhance the park that you frequent. We have a particular program called It's My Park. And basically we give you the training, we give you the supplies, we give you the expertise of Mr. Clay there, who's an expert on the particular parks that he manages. And at the end of the day, we hope to give you great programming. And so we're actually doing stuff still in the winter. I just left the park and I was surprised that we were able to do daffodil planting with it being so cold. But I had a park gardener with me who had her drill and attached a piece to her drill. So she was able to go into the hard soil and plant the bulbs. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. You can do activities all year long as you desire. And so that's a nutshell of what we do. I don't know if Carly wants to chime in, and she can whenever she wants to talk about some of the activities. We recently just had a mulch fest. And what a mulch fest is, you know how we have all these Christmas trees. They're beautiful, they're wonderful during the season, but what do we do afterwards? Well, we take them to our chipperies, we chip them up, and we use them as mulch. You know, we have leaf gathering events. We do all kind of, I feel, events that allow the advocacy of people like you to intermingle with us to do things in the park. And so any queries or questions that you have, please feel free. I'm going to put in the chat my email address and my phone number. Feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to call me. And with that being said, any questions you have, shoot, let's go.
I know that I'm also part of a nonprofit here in Bay Ridge. It's called Bay Ridge Cares.
Oh, and you know what's so funny? I just had a meeting today with Daniel Loud.
Oh, okay.
Right. And so I'm looking to do amazing events with you guys too.
Very good. Yes, I was going to say that, we're looking forward to doing our event on Earth Day in April with Cannonball Park over there. So,
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we had a meeting on Friday and he was telling me about you guys want to paint the gazebo in there and
yes,
you want to really be proactive in making sure the Earth Day is spectacular. And so with
absolutely.
that being said, I'm all in.
Great. Looking forward to working with you, Curtis.
Hey, it's my honor and pleasure.
And if you guys have any additional issues with the gazebo, just let me know. I know we had shops come out and do a lot of nice little fixing up. They fixed the roof and some of the railings. If there's anything else you guys need done before you have your event there, let me know, all right?
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. We'll be in touch.
Diane, I just want to remind, we have a number of attendees at the meeting. So after committee questions, we invite attendees to, if they want to raise their hand or if they want to write a question in the chat, they can do so.
Thank you.
But you have one hand raised, Leo Dan?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask just a general question to Diane and Curtis. How do we have anything scheduled as far as cleanup efforts for any of our parks for this coming spring? Because it'd be great to schedule something, especially for Earth Day, to get the community engaged and invite people from the community to come clean up. We have so many parks and probably we can pick a handful of parks that we can organize around and go, clean up.
Mr.
Like some
Castillo,
trash.
I'm gonna let Carly, because I see she's down there. Carly, are you able to answer that question for that gentleman?
Yeah, sure. Hey, sorry, I was having some audio issues earlier, but I'm also with Partnerships for Parks. Yeah, so there are some groups. So I work specifically with Owl's Head Park volunteers. They actually had just sent me a list of dates for upcoming projects that they'd like to have some volunteers for. So I'm happy to, send those over to you. They're always looking for, additional people to come and help out. I still have to connect with them about Earth Day in particular. I know they've done some stuff in the past, but I'm not sure what that's going to look like this year. So I'll put my information in the chat as well, so you can have my email and we can stay connected that way. I know Leif Erikson Park, they also have several volunteer opportunities. There's a group called Parent-Child Relationships. Some of you may be familiar with them, but they do a lot of continuous projects in District 7 and District 10. So that group leader, I know they're planning a lot of community events for different types of cultural holidays. I know they're doing stuff for the Lunar New Year. My cat in the way right now. But yeah, I'll definitely stay in touch about some other spring or summer events and stuff with Earth Day going on. Thanks.
And I know that our elected officials make an effort to do, cleanups throughout the community, from the spring through the summer and into the fall. So they often post their events on social media.
Yeah, and also, Board 10's Parks Committee, prior to the pandemic, we, many committee members, I know Shirley Chin, her Girl Scout troop, we participated in It's My Park Days in years past. Maybe something we, want to consider doing again. Narrows Botanic Gardens, Bay Ridge Cares, a lot of our civic groups do participate in park events, our elected officials, as Diane said. And we get contacted often by scouting groups who are working on Eagle Scout projects or some community groups that want to adopt an area and clean up. I was speaking today to a local volunteer who decided to remove some of the invasive species in one of our park areas. And I think it's something that absolutely that we should continue to advocate for, and maybe, down the road, Diane, plan something to partner up. It's nice to be out and doing work in our local parks for sure.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. But we will let you all know. I can't really see if there's anybody else that has any questions.
Nope, I don't see any. So we can move on, I guess, to one of our most active volunteers in Bay Ridge Parks, Jimmy Johnson is here.
It's always
So-
a pleasure to have you with us, Jimmy.
Thank you. So do you, can I get the screen? Oh, okay. So
Yes, you can share.
okay, where do I share on this? I'm sorry.
On the bottom, there should be a green button that says share screen.
I see it. Okay. So I'm sharing. Can everyone see?
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so this is the Belt Parkway Green Space Project, Native Grasses and Pollinating Plant Installation. This is what we would like to do. First of all, a little history on Shore Road. This is probably what most of Shore had looked like in the 1820s, basically gravelly beaches, and it just went down to the water. There were probably some marshes and stuff there too, but basically this is what it looked like in the 1820s. If we move up to the 30s, if you can see my little arrow here, I think this is 4th Avenue. If not, this is 4th, I'm not sure, but this is where they dug out the tunnel for the train, you know, our R train, and they filled in a lot of this with that. This little island here is one of the base of the Verrazano Bridge. They converted this island into the base for that. And the Narrows Botanical is down here. So this is what Shore Road looked like in the 30s. It was basically open sand and a lot of fill starting that. I guess they had thoughts of filling it in and making it a highway or whatever. And here we are today on Shore Road. This is what Shore Road looks like today. And this is pretty close to the Narrows Botanical. So the area that we're thinking about right now is, this is the Narrows Botanical and this is the Belt Parkway. And can everyone see this strip of green line along here?
Yes.
That is a green space that's on the DOT side. It's a very large part. It's a very large green area of space between the Belt Parkway and the Narrows Botanical. Just to start off with, I want to talk about native plants versus non-native plants. Native plants are plants that have been here for at least 15,000 years. I use 15,000 years because that's when the glaciers started receding and we started getting plants back into the New York area. Remember, the glacier was 2 miles thick for 100,000 years or 50,000. So everything was dead. As it moved back, all of the native plants came back and started planting our area. Non-natives are the plants that we have introduced from all over the world to Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, to New York, all over. Invasive plants are plants that take over an environment like mugwort, and they control an area, destroy an area, and nothing else kind of lives there. Shore Road is 80% non-natives and invasive plants. Narrows Botanical, of course, has a wide variety of different plants, but we're working on a lot of natives. So mugwort is the leading cause of hay fever in the season. It's useless to our environment, and native insects don't eat it. Now, another little educational tidbit is, what happens is that our native insects and birds, when they see a plant that's from China or Europe or Africa or Asia, they don't eat it, they don't look at it, and no insects eat it. So it's literally like having cement there. And so it's nothing for the environment, except maybe to take in carbon and release some oxygen. So so non-natives in huge areas are very, very detrimental to our environment. The way to remove the non-native, the way to remove them would be to take the mugwort, this is mugwort on the top here, remove everything down to the soil, and then plant it with native plants along the highway here. What we'd replace that with is salt, wind, and flood-tolerant grasses. Now, the interesting thing about grasses is that their roots can go 6 to 8 to 10 feet deep into the soil. regular lawn grass and non-native grasses and plants, they grow about 12 inches into the soil. So when root systems can go that deep into the soil, you have incredible porosity. In other words, the soil is really, really porous. So with flooding and things, you have deep drainage, which is excellent to mitigate flooding. Meadow flowers is the other thing that we would introduce in there. And these are all really, really, aside from being aesthetically beautiful, these are the other guys that come in that are also aesthetically beautiful and very, very, very beneficial to our environment. You see that monarch butterfly that you mentioned earlier, Josephine, up there, and many other butterflies and insects that would benefit from this. Another thing that would benefit from meadow flowers and grasses in that area would be our native birds. A lot of these birds are either very, very rarely seen here or once in a while. Also remember that Bay Ridge is a migration route. So we'll see a lot of rare birds that stop here as they're going upstate to their nesting areas. What we want them to do is to have enough area here, enough food here, enough shelter that they're like, hey, we're gonna nest here. This area is beautiful. That's what we're looking to do, get these birds back in the area. The reason that these birds aren't here isn't so much housing, because we do have bird houses and things, it's more food. And if we have the wildflowers and the grasses, we're going to have the insects. And the insects are what the birds need desperately. They don't feed their babies seeds. They feed their babies insects. Some birds do, but most of our natives, 99%, 95%, feed their babies caterpillars and insects. And that's what would grow if we had the native plants in the area that would benefit these guys. Again, the monarch butterfly is literally endangered right now, which is incredible. And this plant here is called milkweed. And this plant is poisonous to many, many plants, but not to the monarch butterfly caterpillars. So this would also be another plant that we could introduce in the area that would be very, very beneficial. Again, here's the yellow strip that we're talking about replanting and making into grasses and wildflowers. This is kind of this is a small rendition of what it would look like along the Narrows Botanical. This would be on the highway side. This is just a kind of exaggerated rendition of what it would look like, on the highway side. This would all be grasses and wildflowers. So again, if somebody pulled over and had a problem, they can step in there. It wouldn't be any issue. It would just be some grasses and wildflowers. So, if there was an emergency or anything, it wouldn't be a problem at all. Again, I'd really like us to take the lead on this because this is happening. This is happening through the United States, as you can see in these photos. They are doing this, and they're doing this through the country, and they're going to be doing more of this. And I would love for Bay Ridge to be take the lead on this. I would love us to, make our highways beautiful. Food and shelter for countless birds and insects. We can change the soil structure, like I said earlier, with mitigating it from flooding and increasing the drainage with more porous soil. So it would really, really be exciting if we could do this in Bay Ridge. Now we're doing this at the Narrows Botanical. We have a hillside that we took all of the non-native shrubs in there that we had planted years ago. We cleared that area out. This large tree is a cherry tree. And we took this area and we just started planting it with all natives. And hopefully within about 3 seasons, it's going to look like this. Now, not only is this aesthetically beautiful, but all of these plants are food and shelter for insects and birds and other little critters. So we'd have a lot of signage in here. We're going to have signage in here educating people about exactly what this is and how important it is to do these changes. This is a further out version of it. So this is what it looks like now, and this is what we're hoping to have it look like within about 3 seasons of it growing and taking this area over. So we want to bring this onto the highway side too. Now, the other thing we're working with is a company from Wisconsin on bee lawns. And of course, lawns are non-native grasses, but there are a lot of little native plants that are 6 to 12 inches tall, and they flower. And that's what we have over here. This is our bee lawn grass, and this is a close-up of the things in the grass. These little plants are insect and pollinating friendly, except aesthetically, you can walk on them and we can mow them just like regular grass. So we're hoping to replace a lot of our grass with this new bee lawn that we have here. NVG is making this happen. This is our pollinating garden at the NVG. Some of these plants are native, but our pollinating garden is filled with wildflowers and pollinating flowers. And this is the kind of look that we want on Shore Road itself along the Belt Parkway. And we're doing this in a couple of other areas in Narrows Botanical right now. So that's it. Thank you. Do we have any questions?
So Jimmy, I'm going to stop the screen share so we could see everyone's hand.
Okay. So do you want me to, what would you like me to do with the questions, or are there any questions?
Yeah, so Diane's going to call, we have a couple of hands raised, so
We'll start with Jack Zhang.
Hey, thanks for that presentation. It was awesome. I was just wondering, has there been any noise studies done in that area since like the park is literally right next to the highway? Does this new meadow, new native plant area help with noise at all?
Jack, it doesn't really help with the noise. I'd love to say it does. There was a small fence that we thought of doing about 15 years ago. You know those tall fences you see out in Long Island, the tall walls? Those wooden walls, they're literally done to knock the sound out. And we actually have a big problem with the sound at Narrows Botanical.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you could do is there's actually a form of highway grid that they could put on the highway that reduces the sound of the cars greatly. And hopefully we can make changes with that, because it is very, very important for it to be a lot quieter. And there are laws now with that, those awful muffler things. I think that's coming down, right? Because that was horrendous there too. So it wouldn't mitigate it that much. I'd love to say it would, but it wouldn't. It would just be aesthetically beautiful. Maybe a small amount, maybe a little bit.
Got it. Thank you.
Terry?
Hey, Jimmy, I love this. I love this so much that I can't even express it, because for the past few years, I've been photo documenting projects for the National Park Service and the National Wildlife Federation, including they established a whole pollinator garden out at the Gateway Bird Sanctuary that it took about 3 years, but it exploded, and full of purple asters and milkweed, and it's incredible. And then last year out at Seagate along the beach, they've had schools planting thousands and thousands and thousands of beach grass, little clumps, because I mean, it's going to help cement the dunes so that they will travel a bit, but they won't get washed out. But I've learned a lot from doing this. I'm wondering, is it possible to also add things like, I think a lot of people think bees all live in colonies, and there are like 40,000 bees in North America, and many of them are solitary. So I'm wondering if we could also add some bee hotels, some bat boxes, some bird houses, because it's really incredible what starts to happen when you create this kind of habitat. I'm just really love it. I mean, I have milkweed planted at my house. I have purple asters planted at my house. And come September, the asters are full of bees. I mean, just full of bees. And I used to be afraid of bees the way most people are. Now I get extremely excited when I see a bee, because they don't care about me. They just want food. And I don't know. I actually, a couple of years ago when Justin had proposals out for city council, I put together a proposal on doing a pollinator garden, and it got approved, and then COVID hit and nothing really happened. But it's not that expensive to do. You know, the plants at my house are mostly from, you know, random packages of wildflowers. So, I don't know. I'm really thrilled because
Thank
I've seen the impact that it has.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Carly.
Yeah, hey, well, first I wanted to mention too that I didn't realize that the native grasses root systems are so deep, and that helps with the soil structure and everything. So that was a cool fact to learn tonight. So thank you. But I was also wondering, just in general, you know, if the Narrows Botanical Garden has their own nursery, or if you may get some plants from the Parks Department nurseries or under, you know, other vendors, or what that kind of looks like from season to season. It's just kind of curious, you know, how your system is.
Well, we have gotten plants from the Staten Island Native Plant Center. And a lot of the plants that we're using on the hillside that we're doing, we purchased from the Staten Island Native Plant Center, and they've been really, really helpful. And then we used various plugs in different nurseries, or we order things and we have it delivered to us.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I know the Greenbelt has several types of grasses too. I think they kind of emphasize that. So that's cool. Thank you.
So Jimmy, last I think we met, there's been a lot of advocacy for this project. Our advocacy was through the Department of Transportation, and they kind of kicked the ball to Parks, since this is parkland, which is
maintained by DOT.
Maintained by DOT, but owned by New York City Parks.
Yes.
So, and it would seem to make sense, this project, because since DOT maintains it, there seems to be a whole lot less maintenance needed if we have all these beautiful native plants that kind of don't really, do they require much maintenance? The first, is it for a short period of time?
Yeah, so the emphasis is that with everything with parks, and this is our problem with parks, that they need upkeep and maintenance. With native plants and native grasses and wildflowers, I would say maybe 3 seasons we would need to maintain them pretty vigorously. After that, maybe annually, biannually, and maybe a mow down every couple of seasons. Other than that, that would basically maintain itself. And we need to irrigate the first 3 seasons or so. And then after that, no more irrigation. These are all native plants that can go through droughts and everything else. So doing natives in the beginning, it's an intensive, let's say 2 or 3 seasons, then you pull back greatly. And one of the biggest challenges, you see it all the time with parks, you know, they do this massive planting and there's no irrigation system. And then you have this huge die out. You know, even though the nursery that they bought it from charges them 3 times the amount for the plant so that they could replace it once. But still, if you don't have irrigation systems in these areas, and you're not dealing with plants that are native that can tolerate the drought, you're going to lose out. They're going to dry up.
Okay, we have some more questions. Terry?
Is there any way to involve schools or the community in general in helping to grow the plants?
We have a lot of schools that have done, Fort Hamilton, many schools have helped us out and are helping us out. And we're actively working with different schools. And we do have a small nursery, but to grow this kind of massive scale, it's better for us to purchase.
Okay.
We do have a small nursery where we do work with things. And now that we're out of COVID, we're going to get back into a lot more educational things with these areas.
I mean, Greenbelt is great. They actually worked on the pollinator garden project. They held the seeds over the winter so that the schools could plant them and generate. They were really wonderful.
Yeah, they are really great.
Carly, did you have another question, or was that from before?
No, it's from before. I forgot to put my hand down.
Okay. So Jimmy, I have another question. I mean, so what do we need to do next, do you think? So I know Terry mentioned that there was advocacy during participatory budgeting, and I think it was one of the projects that was selected. Is it funding? I think we need to go back and Chris is on the call maybe to find out in terms of the capital budget, whether or not this is, I know it's something that we've advocated for in the past, to see if Parks is okay with using this area. And then next, how do we fund the plants? And I know you have like 1,000 volunteers all the time. So
It isn't even volunteers. I researched a company from Bensonhurst, a guy, and his company literally redoes and does meadows. And so, that's where the budgeting could come from. And remember the type of money that we're talking here. I think the basketball court was $4 million. Wasn't it around that, Josephine?
yes.
You know what I mean? So we're talking about $40,000, $50,000, and that's with 3 years of maintenance. You know what I mean? So these numbers are incredibly small and making a huge difference. If Narrows Botanical got $5 million, we're done, and thousands and millions of people are going to be educated for years and years and years to come. As opposed to a basketball court, I'm not saying that it isn't important, but I'm just saying the craziness with the money and where it is and where it isn't, and it isn't a lot of money for something like that. And then the benefits that would do. And the other thing is politically, when that area is done, and that's done correctly, because I'm not going to do it unless it's done correctly, meaning we're not just putting it in and leaving it. It has to be maintained for a few seasons for it to really take off. That's going to be a game changer. It's going to be a game changer politically. It's the only one in New York City. I can't believe that that's even true. But, people, so it would be this drive-by of, wow, have you seen that? What is that? What is it doing? It really, really would be so important, and a big boost for Bay Ridge that we're doing something so important, for the environment.
Right. Well, I think first things in order to, we'll follow up on the participatory budget, because I think, Terry, you're right. I mean, that was one of the, your proposal was approved. And I think this is a great area for sure. So maybe we could follow up, Jimmy, at the district office level and, reach out to the Councilman Brannan's office so we could follow up on that funding. I know we've advocated for funding for native plantings and native gardens in the district. So we will definitely follow up. And it was a beautiful presentation. I know there's a lot of members on the public. If anyone has a question, you could put it in the chat or also raise your hand.
Jimmy, could you possibly forward that PowerPoint?
I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
I also think you can lead by example. If you show people how simple it is to do this, we have a fairly active neighborhood where people might be encouraged to do some of this at their own homes. Because my goal was not just to do something in a park, but really to get people doing it at their homes. I wanted us to become a neighborhood of habitat.
That's our goal too at the Narrows Botanical too. We're working on that too. We're working on changing lawns. I have my own landscape design business, and I put in a lot of natives and I get rid of a lot of lawns.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
well done.
Diane, we have a question from a member of the public.
Okay.
Okay. LM Diaz. You should be able to unmute. Hi.
Good evening, everybody. Actually, my name is Lucy. I'm a volunteer at the Narrows Botanical Garden. And one of the things that Jimmy neglected to say, because he has so much on his mind, is that we actually have done projects in the community to promote this in people's home gardens. One of the things that we have done was like a 1-by-1 project where it's just taking a square foot of your lawn and just putting some plants. This is something I believe that they did. Jimmy, if I'm correct, this was last summer or last spring, or I think it was 2021. And then this year we focused a lot on having the butterfly seed. I think they were called like butterfly wishes And they were just seeds of our mugworts, not the mugwort, from the milkweed that we were, making for a small donation. People could just take and plant that in their garden. So we've been doing this for a couple of years, and I just want to make sure to highlight that and let you know that we have very active plans to continue that and grow those types of native plant programs for NBG this year as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you so much.
She's right. I forgot about that, our 1x1 project where we gave plants away. People came and we did if they just took 1 foot by 1 foot of their garden and planted it up with natives.
Wonderful. Jane.
Hey, I just wanted to add, my sentiments also to how beautiful this is and how inspiring it is for the people of our community to have a special place like this, and to really, especially after we've all been through the pandemic, to have a place to go to in nature, to really have that moment to pause and appreciate all the beauty that is around us. It is good for the spirit, it's good for the soul, and it's good for the Bay Ridge community. So thank you for this gift that our community can treasure.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Josephine, do you see anyone?
I do not.
Well, Jimmy, thank you for such an informative and inspiring presentation. It really is inspiring. I have a little 2x4 in front of my house, and I'm thinking about how I can incorporate this in front of my house as well. And so
I could see this in a future edition of our newsletter. I think we all need to get that word out and on social media.
Absolutely.
We'll convert our lawns. Our lawns are going away, and we're making them native friendly. So
thank you very much. If there is no other comments or questions, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Anyone like to make that motion? Thanks, Leah. Dan?
Let's see, Dan seconded.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everyone.
I'd like to thank all of our presenters, and we look forward to working along with you in the coming season. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.